Hello and welcome to Outcast Collective Podcast, where we discuss an array of topics from movies, TVs, comic books, and more. My name is Rob. Me and Janelle sat down last night after watching X-Men Apocalypse and talked all things X-Men, giving a nice review on how we felt about the movie and the characters and everything. So I hope you enjoy, and we're going to let it, get right into it. So thank you for listening.
See, and this is why I don't like trailers, because now that I look back after seeing the movie, the one of the best scenes was when Psylocke cut the car in half and fell out in front, and she's all spread out. I mean, it's intense. It's the best scene with her. That's the hard part, for me. So that's why I don't like trailers. I wish they would not reveal stuff like that. It's not as much fun, especially that's the first trailer too.
No, I didn't realize how much they revealed until I watched the movie and then went back and watched the trailers. Yeah.
So that's why, like, in Civil War, they did not reveal Ant-Man going to be Giant Man. They never revealed that. That was never part of the trailer. So that was cool to see. You have things that are revealed in these trailers that would have been better to see and feel in the moment of in the movie.
No.
But all that being said, I love this movie. This is definitely better than Batman vs Superman. Is it better than Civil War?
It's two different. Civil War and Apocalypse, I think it's just two separate emotions, two separate worlds in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like that they're like that people are comparing, because I think that this is one of the best Captain America movies besides Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
But Winter Soldier brought you a good, a good Captain America Civil War. So, but I can't. They're just two different emotions, two different feelings, two different families. So putting them together is just, and comparing them side by side is just not fair to me.
And I understand that. But if you take the category of comic book movies, you ask yourself, what is the best comic book movie of 2016 so far?
Oh, I'm going to say X-Men Apocalypse.
It's
emotional for me. It's a family for me.
Exactly.
They make it's all you just from going back to X-Men 1,
Mm-hmm.
it's you start your love for them then.
Yeah.
You feel a part of what they're going through, these people that are trying to be accepted in their own world.
Mm-hmm.
And how many of us are trying to do that every day? And so then you become a part of their family at that point. And then each one that keeps coming out, each story that keeps getting written, you feel more and more a part of their family.
Right. Absolutely.
And so to me, this is a very feel a part of the family movie compared to Captain America movies. Those are superheroes fighting villains and destructing cities. And what I liked about X-Men Apocalypse is, yes, Apocalypse destroyed the shit out of everything.
Oh yeah, big time.
But what didn't they make prominent in the movie? There was hardly any scenes of all the destruction of all the people. They kept all that out.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't see people running and screaming. You didn't see people dying because of all this. You didn't see families gripping their other families. You didn't see people trying to run and you didn't see that. I think we didn't need to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad they didn't put it in there, because we as moviegoers, as readers of comics, as whatever, as we know that that's going on, because we're the human watching the movie. So we know that families are instantly running and scared and being destructed and dying and blowing up and being buried under, we already know that. You don't need to make it prominent in your film. Let's stick to the story.
No, I agree with you. I mean, you can assume that there were lots and lots of people dying and different perspectives.
And that's what they let us do. Instead of showing it and wasting film time,
yeah,
they just knew we knew.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't quite understand what Magneto was doing by tearing the world apart the way he was. Is he rebuilding it, or what exactly was his purpose? Was he supposed to be?
I think
because he was like ripping everything to shreds.
Right. Well, Apocalypse asked him, use your powers to grab all the metal that this world has created.
Yeah.
And destroy it. And that's what he was doing. I didn't really see too much of how it was being destroyed besides the fact that it was in these spiral things going round and round. I didn't.
Right.
With a little bit of dust, but I figured Apocalypse could have gathered all that shit and diminished it in seconds. So why did you have him do that?
Yeah, but Magneto had to have some version of use, and so I think what he was doing was
as a writer for
the
movie.
Yeah, I don't know if Apocalypse can actually manipulate metals the same way Magneto can. So my guess is Magneto was gathering all of the metals and tearing down all of the cities and all the different infrastructures and stuff like that, and he was ripping all this stuff out, and then he was going to rebuild this world of some sort, which was fine. I get that ultimately what he was going to do was never going to happen.
Right.
So it was just kind of this is what Magneto's purpose is to be the constructor, the rebuilder, which kind of ends up happily ending when he rebuilds the mansion. So if you take that, for example, he was going to rebuild the Earth for Apocalypse's purposes. Right. Instead, he ends up taking the turn and becoming good and rebuilds the house for him after it was destroyed. Cool, yeah. Which was a really awesome scene. And that was one of the things I thought was cool was in Days of Future Past, we see Quicksilver, Evan Peters, he goes into this slow motion run fast scene that's really fucking cool, and it's got comedic things to it. He's being silly, he's being funny with all of it when they go to break Magneto out of prison in Days of Future Past. And now in this one, it was like, oh, are they going to do the same thing? Well, they did it, but they did it to even a new, fresh effect. And I'd love to see him reinvent that scene over again in every movie,
Yeah, I like the character in general.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's goofy. He's like normal, but with speed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny that he even has this great moment in Days of Future Past with them, but yet still doesn't join the X family. Doesn't go to the school. He doesn't do it. But he's got that crumpled up.
Well, he was going there on the way in this one, though.
He was, finally.
He was heading
but
there.
But it took him like 10 years to get there. So, he went back and lived in his mom's home for like 10 years. And just everybody kind of lay dormant for 10 years, which is interesting that that's the way they played it out. But I liked the throwback to the 1980s. There was a lot of fun in that.
Oh, yeah. You get to see Michael Jackson's jacket on a Nightcrawler and, Rush poster and, in
and they came out of Return of the Jedi.
In a Quicksilver's house and the Return of the Jedi movie they walked out of, and then the third one always sucks quote.
Yeah. The third one's
the reference to X-Men.
Yeah, Last Stand, which is a horrible movie.
And obviously the writer-director knew that the third one did not go too well.
It didn't go so well. And it's mostly because he didn't direct it. So
there was voice, on social media and stuff about Jennifer Lawrence's acting as being
mailed in.
I completely disagree. She sold me. I felt like I was her walking around doing what she was doing.
Yeah, I like Jennifer's performance better than the Maury McTaggart. Rose, what's her name?
Byrne.
Rose Byrne.
I think so. It's Byrne.
Byron Byrne, whatever. Either way, like she had the scene in the office was fine, but everything else was very
humdrum.
I'm here.
That's mail bag to me.
I would say that was mailed in worse than Jennifer's was, especially the scene at the end with Charles. He's like he's dead, and she's like over his body going, oh, we lost him. Oh, he's gone.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of her acting in general. So yeah.
Yeah, that was the only part I didn't like. It made the emotional scene between the two a little less for me. But
I did like the beginning, the intro, the Egyptian, the pyramids, how they made the pyramid seem like a computer board, and how the sun is the power behind everything, and it just clicks in with a lot of things that I choose to believe in. And so it was kind of cool to like somebody's using what everybody's kind of talking about as far as the Egyptians and ancient aliens.
Right, it goes back to ancient aliens, and that the higher people of the ancient aliens, the pharaohs, not just the pharaohs, but the gods the pharaohs believed in, Ra and all of them. And he even says it in the movie. He goes, I was once known as Ra, and he names off like 3 or 4 other ones, and
Allah.
Yahweh, Allah, it plays into that ancient aliens
which was
thought.
really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think anybody who's in ancient
multiple
aliens
things
will like it.
Yeah, I get it. And like I read a couple of reviews where people were like, well, if you walked in just a little bit late, you might have been confused with another running of Gods of Egypt. What the fuck you talking about?
No,
I didn't see Gods of Egypt, but
it's
either
the
way,
beginning of the story.
yeah, if they walked in late anyways, it's their own stupid
He's an old
fault.
god,
Yeah,
basically. So you got to go back to where there was a huge influence, amongst the masses, and so that makes sense.
Yeah, and especially the Egyptians. If you get into their lore, they're very X-Men-y.
And as a writer, you got to connect with your audience. Yeah. So everybody knows about Egypt. Everybody knows about Ra and ancient aliens nowadays. So that's where you're gonna go. Like, really, where else are you gonna go?
No, I thought it was awesome, and I liked how the idea was Apocalypse had created this device that allowed him to absorb another person. So like he absorbs Oscar Isaac's character before, and what it did is not only make him eternal because he was forever healing. Because like the character that Oscar Isaac was when he was laying on the table, had like almost Wolverine's healing power. So he was able to be cut open and heal himself, which is something that Apocalypse never had.
Right.
But then he never got a chance to really use it because then he ended up being betrayed and dropped down, and so, which was a really cool scene, and it's very interesting because you almost have this wonder of, in that Egyptian lore, is there something out there, something to be explored? And it gets to the mind working a little bit, but
because somebody ended up digging a hole, searching because they knew that the pyramid used to stand here. They're looking for their god. That whole gathering of people were looking for that guy, because they believe in him, and in Apocalypse. And so they dug and went down there, and like, this is where he fell, so I'm gonna sit here and do my prayers and my chants, and then of course the American comes down and fucks it all up and starts the end of the world.
Sort of.
Yeah, if she didn't go down there, the sun wouldn't have hit it, and Apocalypse wouldn't have been born.
Yeah, he would have been revived for sure. That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
All right, so we follow up Apocalypse being reborn with going to meeting Scott Summers, where he has this freak out at high school when his eyes finally come into puberty, if you will, and he blasts the hell out of this bully at school, and then his brother Havoc drives him to Xavier's school. And so Scott is having his day at the school and learning to use his eyes, and he has this really funny scene where he goes to use his eyes for the first time in front of Professor Xavier, and he destroys like half the pond and cuts down apparently Xavier's favorite tree.
Yeah, and Xavier didn't realize how powerful he actually was.
His eyes are super powerful.
I don't know what he was thinking.
Well, they're. He's new. He's new to. Of course, he could like read his mind and saw the scene that happened.
I think Xavier actually really respects his talents, his abilities.
I think he does that with everybody.
Yeah, he's like he can know things if he wants to, but he respects privacy and you to create your own future and whatever. So I mean, I love that about the character. I mean, like that scene with Magneto towards the end, like, bye.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to stay. He says, but I won't.
Mm-hmm.
You can read my mind, or you can see the future, or whatever. But he doesn't. He just knows people got to live their lives, and he knows not to interfere.
Yeah, he does. And that's what makes Xavier one of the best characters.
I agree.
Because he has this power that could get him whatever he wants and have all kinds of control and wipe out humanity if he really wanted to or whatever. But he doesn't. He uses it on the very edge of good and potentially a little.
I think.
But, like when he fakes everybody stop in the office. And,
right, I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's.
I wish I had that.
Everybody take a break.
I go grocery shopping with that ability.
Oh yeah.
I'd like freeze everybody, grab my shit, get to the cash register, be out of there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Psylocke. First time for me ever hearing of the character. I don't read the comics. I know, I'm sorry. I don't, but I'm a huge X-Men fan. I'm very biased. But her character was really cool. She kind of reminded me of Elektra a little bit.
You can put her in a similar category.
I don't know. She just had that feel, and
yeah, she would be a mutant version of Elektra, if you will, where she is a ninja and she uses a katana as a sword, but then she also can create energy beams.
Right.
And they cut things and they so she's pretty awesome character. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about her.
Well,
she was like my favorite character in some of the X-Men games to play because she was wicked powerful. But,
right.
I
mean, do you know about her in the comic books at all?
A lot of the comics I read for X-Men, she wasn't in them.
Okay.
I can't remember. She might have been part of like X-Force and stuff like that, and I didn't really read too much X-Force. I think that was a little after my X-Men reading days. So I was pretty excited going into the movie about Olivia Munn playing Psylocke. She's just kind of this really cool individual, and I first was introduced to her through Newsroom, and she was the very...
Oh my god, I was so trying to remember that.
Yeah.
When I was watching, I was like, I know her.
Yeah,
I'm like, where do I know her from?
She's one of the best parts of Newsroom. That character is so
She's awesome.
Stiff, but yet funny, and I loved her to death in that show. And so I was excited to see her come into this, and I know she's wanted a big part in like Star Wars and stuff like that. She is a big Star Wars fan. But I felt she was a little underutilized because she didn't do a whole lot until you got to the very end fight, and then in the end fight, the scene that was in the trailer where she cuts the car in half is
the best scene.
Is the best
Her
scene.
Best scene.
Like, she has this fight with Beast, and it's kind of cool. And then she is falling, and she uses her thing to save herself. And then you have this scene where she walks up to Apocalypse, and you actually thought it was her, and you're like, yeah, she's on the side of good. And then it's Mystique and not her, and you're just like, and then she has the scene where she slips away, and you're like,
yeah, after.
All right, so where are they going with her? Because
because after Apocalypse is beaten, instead of coming out because she was hiding, instead of coming out and being a part of the X-Men winning, she almost was still on the side of Apocalypse and said, or it's either she was still on the side of Apocalypse and wanted to fight against them, or she just felt like maybe I can't come out now because now I'm going to be judged for being on his side.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of has that look, and she looks at everybody like almost angry, but then guilty, and then she just disappears. She leaves, and she doesn't she's running away in a way.
Well, when you first find the character, she's in this underground version of X-Men doing not X-Men, but mutants doing
form.
Stuff. Yeah, she's and I don't remember if she was like that in the other stuff, where she was kind of almost like, always a little bit of a bitch.
She was moody and jealous, and she was a part of the underground, a part of X-Men, or a part of the mutants.
Exactly. And
she was like, mutants are trying to get away, or mutants are trying to rebel, then I'll be a part of it.
Right. And I don't really remember that too much with her.
I think she's on the darker side of the mutants, like Magneto is now.
Yeah. And that's what I find interesting is where they're going to go with the rest of these movies. Because, like, Magneto is their atypical bad guy. And they've already done off with Apocalypse now. So who else are they going to play into? Because they were always trying to stop Magneto and his henchmen, if you will. Magneto would send his henchmen to go do something like this, and then a comic book would be all about stopping them. Or
I was happy to get the half human, heartfelt Magneto.
Oh, Fassbender's fucking awesome. In this
I've
movie.
never got to connect with Magneto in the way that you get to in this movie.
Yeah.
You get to see kind of where his anger, his loss, his hurt stems from.
Well, you do get in the first X-Men movie
do,
where
but
Ian McKellen plays
right.
Magneto. You
But
see
you
that
don't
amazing scene when he's in
scene.
Auschwitz. What?
But you don't get to see this family
No.
getting killed scene. You don't.
Yeah, and I think that was fascinating that they allowed him to have this family again, and that's where I'm a little confused by the storyline where, like, he was with Quicksilver's mom but disappeared, and then
Which is another topic.
yeah,
in
it's
general.
just it's
He
strange.
had like 2 times to tell him.
Yeah.
I'm your son, and the writers just said,
Yeah?
nope, not this time.
No, I think that's gonna
And
be.
you have an anticipation. You just want to see Magneto's face when he says that. And spoiler alert, they don't give it to you.
No. Yeah.
I think
No.
the whole freaking podcast. Spoiler
Oh
alert.
yeah,
But still.
it'll be up on the thing as spoiler alert. But, the story keeps building, and I've read a couple other reviews. I don't understand whether they're talking about like plot holes or the speed or momentum of the movie was up and down. Like Batman v Superman, there were moments where like it sucked me out and sucked me back in.
That was a little more up and down.
Yeah.
I think X-Men started out slow, and it led slow, and then it hit medium speed,
Yeah.
and then it hit hardcore. So it took you on a nice ride. I don't think it was up and down at all.
Yeah.
I think it was a cruise, and then I'm driving a little fast, and then a little NASCAR in there at the end.
Yeah. NASCAR references.
But and then God.
Like I can tell you at this point, I'm at the same point I was when I left Batman v Superman or Deadpool or Civil War. That I was thinking about the movie, and I'm still thinking about this movie. I'm still humming and hawing about it. I'm going back and forth. And at this point with like Batman v Superman, I was beginning to break down going, yeah, I liked the movie initially. Oh, but I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that. No. That one scene there. No, I didn't. No, that doesn't make sense now. Oh, when I think about it, no, that doesn't work.
Right.
And now with Deadpool, I walked away going, that was fucking amazing. Was it wholly satisfying? No. It had a sweet moment at the end. It was funny all the way through. The movie itself was
Better
awesome.
than having his lips sewn shut and he stood there like a angry mute.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. He's not going to talk about it either, apparently. But no, you know, like Civil War, I remember getting to the airport fight scene, and I watched the airport fight scene, and it's all happening, and I'm like holding my breath the whole fucking time. I felt like, oh, what's gonna happen? Oh my god, there's a fight over here. Oh boy, oh boy. And I was just all hyped up and going, and then all of a sudden it was done, and I'm like, hold on, pause button. Whew, hold on. I gotta
process.
I gotta process this. I gotta. Whew. All right, deep breath. This movie, I just kind of enjoyed the ride all the way through. And I never felt lulls. I enjoyed the funny moments. I enjoyed the.
It was a nice build-up.
I did.
It is.
The only thing I didn't like, and this is again throwing back to the trailers, you showed me Wolverine. Mm-hmm. Now I saw the scene. The arm comes down. The blades stick out. I knew what scene it was. As soon as they got put in that little octagon room,
I think if they never
I instantly
had that,
knew that Wolverine was showing up.
Had that in the trailer
No.
and just said,
you didn't need it.
I mean, you could have just said somebody shows up, and you didn't need to do the flip of the frickin' the blades.
No, I would have enjoyed the sound over the
Picture.
visual. So if you would have just ended it where it flashed to X-Men Apocalypse and then there was a shink, I would have been, okay, you just told me Wolverine's in the movie.
But you don't know when.
But I don't know when.
Right.
I don't know how. And when they would have walked in that room and he was breathing and he was all, getting all amped up and fired up.
It took me a second because he sounded very beastie.
And that played into what Wolverine is a
like,
lot more than some of the other stuff does. Yeah.
Growling and shit, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute. And then I panned through the room, and you see, the doctor trays and the charts and the thing, and I leaned over like, it's Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I knew he was coming, and then as soon as he did the breathing thing, I was like, "Oh, it's Wolverine." That's what I said in my head, anyways. I didn't say it to you, but that was the thing. Was I was just, I don't understand why they had to give us that in the trailer.
Right.
That's why I don't like watching the end trailers. I watch the first teaser trailer and go, "Okay, I've seen this movie anyways. It's a comic book movie. I love X-Men. I'm going to see this movie."
Yeah.
It's the same with Ghostbusters, or not Ghostbusters. With what the fuck, the movie? Independence Day. I watched the first one, the teaser trailer. I went, okay, cool. It's another Independence Day. And then the one I watched today in the theater, I know the whole fucking movie.
Right.
I could tell you from beginning to end.
Right.
I could probably tell you 2 or 3 people that are gonna fucking die too. It's disappointing because I was anticipating that movie, and now it's a little less anticipating for me.
Right. No, I agree. I'll go with one of the characters that was just, I don't know, forgettable.
Who's that?
I'm going to go with Lucas Till, who was Angel.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. The acting wasn't that good to me. He never said anything.
Yeah. Other than,
I mean,
I'm a drunk.
Yeah. I mean, you listen to Metallica in the background and throwing bottles around. It just wasn't, I didn't need him at all.
Nah, and that's sad because Angel's actually a really cool X-Men, and he was awesome in the 90s cartoon. He was awesome in the comics I read.
I wish that he would have had more dialect. I wish he would have had more of his own presence, but to me, he looked like Apocalypse's minion.
Yeah. Yeah, they played him off as this character that was just completely fucked up.
Don't be a slave and, have your own power. And, okay, well, your Angel, he's kind of like your slave and everything that you say that you don't want them to be. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm not a huge fan of
Storm
what they
was
do
great.
with that. Storm cool.
Storm was great. I thought she was a good actress.
Yeah.
She had very good facial acting going on. Very good energy. I believed her.
Yeah, I love the Mohawk.
And I love Storm in general. So it was good to see kind of where she started, where she came from, and
yeah, and I mean, as far as like the comics go, that's not like her origin. But no, Storm, I'm happy, and I think this is one of the things that make me the most happy. You have all of these young actors taking on these roles.
Young actors that you kind of don't even know.
No, I don't. I mean, other than Sophie Turner, I totally forgot.
Which is nice, and what we talked about before. They're bringing in these new actors, new actresses, this new generation of goodness.
Yeah, and this is the best I've seen Sophie Turner act. I mean, like, when she shows up in Game of Thrones, I feel like they don't really know how to make her act in that environment sometimes. This newest season, she's a lot better. And maybe this is just her maturing. Yeah. Because, like, those first couple seasons, when she was on screen, I'm like, fuck, I don't give a shit about you.
Her first
movie
thing was Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't doubt it.
So yeah, we kind of been growing with her on Game of Thrones, obviously.
Yeah, and it's awesome to see her embrace this role. And I mean, talking about these new actors, I really do like what Ty Sheridan brought to the role for Cyclops, because in the other movies, I didn't really like Cyclops. He was kind of an annoying ass, and he has moments of being an annoying ass. Not
as bad though.
No, not as bad. He felt like he had real emotion outside of being an annoying ass.
Well, he came from being picked on in high school, which you wouldn't think that of the adult Cyclops. in a way.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. You would think he was the ass.
Yeah, and he was so stiff in those first movies,
and I think that's just
and
the actor
and
in
that's
general.
the thing is like in the comics, Cyclops is an awesome character with real emotion because he gives a fuck about Jean Grey. You never really got that. He was just like this jealous, petty douchebag in the first one.
Then he gets to go to the Xavier School for the Gifted, and then he kind of fits in. His confidence builds really quickly, and his personality changes to the confident Cyclops that you know, to where he's like, let's take one of Professor X's cars and let's go to the mall, and and he's just talking to all these people. He's turned into that bad boy, popular boy type of attitude.
He did.
So I mean, I thought that was, I'm glad he got into a place where he could be comfortable and be himself and not be so depressed, because he was depressed.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
it was good. It was a fun thing to see.
Yeah.
Because like in all the other X-Men, you don't really get to see who these people were when they were young and teenagers.
That's why I really wish that somebody would write an X-Men story from like a Harry Potter perspective, where they show up at like the earliest you can show up, and we'll say it's like 11. Well, that's kind of what Harry Potter did. He showed up and he was like 7 years. He was 10. He was 10 when he first showed up there, and he goes through the 7 years of his life. I think that would be really awesome. You find this character.
It could be a spin-off of X-Men, and you can call it, I don't know, just throwing something out there like Youth of X-Men or something.
Oh, no, sure. I think that would be fun, because then you can take a character and put them in these scenarios where
you can even do like a comic book with the younger X-Men. Like they're like 10, 11 years old. They find out they have these mutant powers, and you go into the lives of a 10, 11-year-old with these mutant powers.
Yep.
That would be fun.
Yeah, and you can take the classic characters and put them in the background and stuff like that. I think it'd make a great cinematic experience. If not, at least a comic book or a book or something. I think it needs to happen. Fuck, maybe I'll do it. But,
right.
I don't know. I've just got this in my head that I think it'd be really fun. And that's what I was thinking about with this movie is I love seeing the kids in the background. They're doing some of their abilities, like in the first couple ones. There would be classes and there would be hallway scenes where you're walking down the hallway and they would do stuff in the background.
They're like floating things.
Yeah, they're floating things, and Iceman would be freezing things, and it was.
It's very Harry Potter-ish too.
It is, and that's what I love, and that's the only thing about this is I wish there was more in the mansion. Developing some of the characters a little bit further, but no.
What I wish they didn't incorporate is the human side of being a child, in the way of when a human goes to school, they get picked on, they get ridiculed, they get teased. And when you think of the mutants in their school, you think we're all are the same, but different. And that's why we're here.
Yeah.
But you still get the bickering in this one. The people in the background that are like totally picking on Jean Grey.
Yes.
But
you get that like even in Harry Potter.
But Harry Potter's different.
Sort of. But in the same category, not everybody can be a wizard. In Harry Potter's world, only certain people can be wizards.
But this is X-Men.
But I know,
not
but
Harry Potter.
But it's the same in its own right.
But I would have liked it if X-Men kept it as we are just a huge fucking family and we all get along.
See, I don't think that would be realistic. Because you still have people that just think more of themselves than they should.
Well, Jean doesn't.
What?
Jean doesn't.
No, she doesn't. But
they're scared of her.
But when you have great power,
which they didn't explain.
Who?
Like she goes, "Oh, they're just scared of me."
Well, they're scared of her because she's weird. Because she would fall asleep at night and then she would have these crazy dreams that would infect the environment around them.
No, but I wouldn't be scared of her because of that.
Well, you wouldn't because you have an open mind. Where these kids, they might be gifted. Some of them can make ice or play with fire. Where she is huge. Like, her power is so immense that she doesn't know what to do with it.
Right.
She can read and hear everybody's feelings. And that's the thing is even though you're special, you can do this or that, you still have
negative thoughts.
I know.
You still go,
well, she's odd. Or,
That's just me.
look at the freak over there with the glasses.
I think it's me in my mom mode. I just want all my kids to love each other.
Right.
And to me, X-Men is a family.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes in. But then you got Mystique.
Mm-hmm.
And she's on posters in another country and as somebody to look up to. And I didn't, like, I get it, but at the same time, I was like, you kind of just threw that in there.
Sort of.
So all these people were looking up to you, even the kids in the mansion. And because you affected or were there during a certain big moment.
Yeah.
But they don't really go into it fully. Like, they didn't flash back to anything to give me the cue of, like, oh, yeah. You know, they didn't do that.
They needed to, they were assuming that you watched, like, Days of Future Past minutes before you watched this movie is pretty much what it came down to. Because that's what happened was, in Days of Future Past, she was supposed to kill the Peter Dinklage's character. She was supposed to kill him, and she actually does in the actual timeline. Or no. Yeah. She does in the actual timeline, and that leads to mutant hatred, and then the Sentinels are created, and they destroy the world, and all the mutants are being executed and destroyed. Where in the actual timeline, what ended up happening was Mystique ends up saving the person, and then she shows up on camera as her blue self.
As her blue self.
And that was the first time anybody went, that's a mutant. Something unique, something different.
She's proud of herself. She's
sort
showing
of.
herself.
It was in the moment she turned blue because she got shot, and it was out in the open, and everybody's like, oh my god. Where, like, if you're like Magneto and you're Professor Xavier and you're Wolverine, you look normal.
Right.
She's the only one that looks odd. And and that's why, like, Beast suppresses himself, and he takes the drug to make sure he looks human. Which he doesn't need to, and I mean, in the comics,
he eventually ends up not doing it.
Yeah, I think the
like
movie is
He would turn into, like, the vice president or something. Remember,
Beast?
He was in the White House, and he was himself.
Yes, he's the liaison. It's very French. Mm-hmm. The liaison for the mutants to the White House.
Yes.
Exactly.
And he was himself.
Yes. And at that point he was blue, and that was Kelsey Grammer, and he was fucking amazing. That was still not the best, but it was whatever. No, it was good. It was good, and I was glad to see him go blue at the end, and it was fun to see the characters happen and come about. And
he was proud.
Yes.
Of Mystique for just being Mystique.
Yeah.
Towards the end.
Which is interesting, and this is where I understand. There are comic people that are furious at this movie, and I get it.
Oh God.
And I get it. I do. I understand. But please calm the fuck down. This is somebody taking your characters and creating a story. So this is like when Marvel redid all their comics way back when, and they called it Ultimates. Spider-Man Ultimate or Ultimate Spider-Man. And then they did it with all of them. They did it with the X-Men and the Avengers and Captain and all of them. And this is way back, long time ago. And this is almost the same idea. You need to look at this universe as this is them taking the X-Men and doing a thing with them. Take the characters for what it are. Are they staying true to the characters? Some, yes. Some, no. Mystique, she's a bad guy. And in fact...
Well, she turns out to be, yeah.
No, she's a bad guy through and through. She never has this, I become decently good... In the movie, she does. And then at the end, we find out that she's teaching the next wave of classes, which is or you're teaching the X-Men to be X-Men, which is it. Yes. Yeah. So, and then we'll get another X-Men.
And we obviously know she goes on with Magneto eventually, and they're like this. Mm-hmm. Sorry, my fingers are crossed together. Tight.
Yeah.
They're tight.
Yeah, well, she was always tight with Eric. And that's the thing is she... In the comics, she is wholeheartedly to Eric, but Eric's character never has this redemption story, except for when ultimate bad guys.
There's no romantic, right? It's just like a father, daughter, sister, brother type.
Yeah.
Connection.
No, I'd say brother, sister. Yeah.
Okay.
in a way.
So I was wondering because I know in the couple years ago when they came out and they were very tight and he, Magneto was worried about her, but then Magneto was gonna let her die and that like hurt her.
That was in The Last Stand.
That's The Last Stand.
And nobody likes that movie. That movie actually, if you take what happened in Days of Future Past, that movie no longer exists.
Right.
So that storyline of Eric or Magneto turning his back on her when she loses her powers.
A potential for something, or it's just a family bond. I mean, if you go back to when he was going to let her die, he's old Magneto.
Yes.
And she's still a young Mystique.
Yeah.
She's not a teenager or in her early 20s, but she's still way younger.
Well, that's the hard part about X-Men is if you take all of those stories and you put them to one whole cohesive piece, the timing doesn't wholly work.
Right.
And that's the only part about the X-Men I go, eh.
This makes sense for Magneto's age in Apocalypse compared to Mystique's age in Apocalypse. Mystique is like 20, looking between 20, 24, 23, looking, and you've got Magneto, who obviously, he's a father, he's a husband, he's obviously 30s, early 40s type role.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a little more difficult
trying to
than what it
figure
was
out
when
the relationship is
they did the
just what
first
I've
movie.
been
Yeah.
trying to do with that whole situation.
It is. It's super difficult. And
I did want to talk about Oscar Isaac.
go for it. Poe Dameron. I mean, he's awesome. He flies the X-Wing like crazy. No, go for it.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much where, like, I know Oscar has done other things, other roles, but most recent, most memorable is Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I'm grasping that face and who he is as this wonderful, beautiful human being that you don't want to die, and you're glad that he doesn't in Force Awakens. So the whole time, instead of looking at Apocalypse so negatively, I'm looking, that's Oscar, and he's doing so good. He's doing this so good. He's such a good actor. I'm just loving him right now. It's like, and I'm not, and I know you're a bad guy, but God, you're doing really good. He did so good. I thought he just pulled this role off, and I'm excited for him. And it takes me to another level of him as an actor.
I agree.
And a lot of people aren't going to agree because they're like, oh, anybody can act like that or whatever. No. He reels you in as like he's this god. And you start to believe him and you start to understand what the fuck he's saying.
Yeah.
And you're starting to feel like, yeah, we're tired of being pushed around and we're tired of false things and you kind of go on his side for a damn second.
Mm-hmm.
Until he gets a little brutal about it. So, but that's me. I'm team villain all the way. But I was, when he first came out and he started saying why he was going to fix the planet and what, I was like, yeah, get rid of the cheap. Give me the badasses. But then he gets a little rude about it and controlling about it, and then you're like, no, you gotta go. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But he did a really good job.
Yeah.
I hope he's proud of it. And I'm glad they changed his color.
Right. Well, that's the thing that kind of upsets me. You're living in a comic book world where you do something to a comic book character that is out of the norm or isn't 100% correct. You're gonna get tossed at it. The people are gonna get upset. Like when they
it, though.
Right, but then they first but that's the thing is they revealed that this first picture and he was purple and he didn't look 100% right.
Like a Power Ranger.
Yeah, he looked like Ivan Ooze from Power Rangers. Yeah, and I didn't watch Power Rangers, so I didn't see that. He just looked purple, and I kind of went, why is he purple? He's not purple, he's blue, for one. And they're like, oh, it was they kind of came out, oh, it was a lighting thing. No. And then they changed a lot of what was happening with his face and the gear and
the shadowing.
And they made him blue, and they fixed some of the mouthpieces, so there's some lines and stuff in there, and
he looks great.
I think he looked good in the gun. But this is the thing: is if you made the choice to make the outfit correct in the first place, could you have done more to the movie? Because instead you had these people spending the time fixing him when they could have been spending the time making something look a little cleaner, a little better. Because there was a couple CGI scenes I went, okay. Like when they took, like, when Magneto was first going nuts on the world, and he starts pulling all the things off the boxcar things in the back of the fucking semi-trucks. Yeah. When they're pulling those off the boat, it looked cheesy to me.
Those are train boxcars.
Yeah, well, semis pull them too. But I mean, they're train boxcars, semi-truck boxcars, whatever. It doesn't. Either way, the point is, they look cheesy. I was like, I could have done that on Illustrator, or not Illustrator, but I could have done that from my laptop, where you have these geniuses and awesome, well-skilled people. It didn't look good to me. I don't care. That's a useless part of that movie. It's like, he's moving shit around. But
did you enjoy Oscars?
I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it. I loved the voice modulations, and when
voice is odd, like when they would double it, like his voice, then the darker one underneath it.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, can you just talk like that the whole movie, please?
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it, and I think the best part about it was his eyes. He had such intense eyes, and you can feel the emotions moving.
Oh, yeah. He's a great actor.
Yeah, he's an awesome actor. I loved him in Ex Machina. I loved him in Star Wars. And I think that's almost, I wonder if it maybe hurt him in a way, because in Ex Machina, he's not a bad guy, but he's kind of got a not crazy, but...
Are you saying you think it hurt him because he was such a good guy in the other ones?
Exactly. So,
no.
Well, because he's filming this movie before Force Awakens comes out, and Force Awakens comes out, and you're like falling in love with the character, and you're like, oh my god, Oscar's amazing.
The only reason I liked Oscar or Apocalypse in Apocalypse and was on his side for a moment was his reasoning behind things.
At the beginning.
It wasn't because that he was Poe. It wasn't because he was a sweet guy. It was all because he had a point.
Yeah.
And we all know that we're all kind of fed up with how the planet's running. So we kind of, are like, yeah, motherfucker, I'm right there with you. But then he just takes it to an extreme level, and then that's where we begin to feel like the anger with him.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where I was enjoying the character, was like, yeah.
Exactly.
This world, I mean, for what it is pretty fucking ugly, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, when he first comes out, he's first experiencing the world, and he's looking at
cars,
all the pettiness, and I mean, TVs and cars or whatever, but
well, he's like, take away the swords and the
right, and he's like looking at all these weapons and stuff like that. And it's like he has a point to.
Yeah, we don't need
right.
that.
Well, and I thought that was what was amazing was he takes.
He's gonna make the world united as
right.
one with all the strong people.
Right. And in a way, this is a period piece where, like, you have to be born, or at least aware of what the 80s was like, where everybody's like, well, I've got nukes. We've got nukes. You push your button, I'm going to push my button.
Right.
And he's
very new,
and everybody's like freaking out going, China's throwing their nukes in the air. Japan's got their nukes in the air. Russia's got their our nukes in the air. Where are they going? Yeah. Yeah. The men are turning the keys. Right. Well, and that was I was a little nervous, because when he started launching them all, I was like, fuck. That's going to destroy Xavier if he got used for that.
He let him go up in the atmosphere, and they didn't even do anything.
Yep. Yeah, that was like a total political move, like even from a creative standpoint, going, we don't need these. And then even at the end of the movie, they still made a stab at him going, they're already creating them again. Well, yeah, of course they're fucking creating them again. They're idiots. Yeah. Our government, everybody's government, they're fucking stupid. Yeah. We need this bullshit.
That's where it comes in, where you kind of, you're on his side for a second. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're politically or emotionally aware of the planet that you're sitting on right now, you kind of go on the side, and you go, yeah,
Mhm.
we need to get rid of the false everything and the weapons and the hate and we all just need to be one. And then he just overdoes it, and then that's where you kind of let go of that, and you're like, oh,
right.
man.
Well, right, because at the end he wants to have complete control.
He's
Right.
representing himself as a false god.
Yeah, he was, and Xavier calls him out for it.
Yeah.
And then when he starts to want to absorb with Xavier, his whole point was, I want to be able to control everyone, and that's what he would have been able to do if he would have gotten Xavier.
I was hoping that when Xavier grabbed him and made him feel the emotions of everybody on the planet, that he might have kind of took a moment to go, oh, the pain and oh, the suffering.
Yeah,
and
he didn't care.
you know they're not going to do that, but you just want that. Just know what it's like for us.
Well, the cool part is Xavier played into his own humanity and tried to express it onto somebody who is not human. I mean, ultimately, in the end, Apocalypse isn't human because he talks about being there at the creation of humanity, and he considers himself significantly separate from the human race, and Xavier tries to play into that for a minute, which is awesome because that's who Xavier is. He always has the hope that somebody will turn around like Magneto, and that's why,
and he never gives up on Magneto.
No. And I sympathize with Magneto. He has lived a horrible life, and by this movie, they've created his life to be even worse than it previously was. But I to a point, I sympathize with Magneto and kind of wish that there would be a gifted individuals would step out and kind of maybe resort, society how it is. So, but
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. The ultimate, the exclamation point, the thing that makes
the thing
this
we've
movie
been saving till the end.
And I've been hemming and hawing around it because
I know, me too.
I love Sophie Turner to death, and I love her even more after this fucking movie. Yeah, and the Phoenix is the best character in X-Men. She is amazing from beginning to end.
She is.
And that's why,
I cried in this movie because of her.
When she stepped out and she's walking on nothing and she throws her arms out and she just fucking screams, I believed it. I believed every single moment of it. It was glorious.
It was Professor X saying,
"Let go,
go, let it go, go. Don't have any fear.
Let it go, let it go."
Just frickin' be who you are, and you'll beat this motherfucker.
Yeah. She is
and she walks
amazing.
Out and she's walking, on air and like she does, and she just you feel her power in her face as an actress, in her scream as an actress, in her eyes. And then you get to see what her scream is doing to Apocalypse. A couple times it would come back and he'd get his skin back and she'd scream harder and then he'd get his skin back and and it took a couple other X-Men to get in there and help at the same time. And
well, they pinned him down. They forced him to sit in this situation, and then she, in her immense power, because she has both telekinesis and telepathy, that she's able to break down.
Right.
And that's why she is so powerful because it's this fire that's burning inside of her that you don't even, she doesn't even know what to do with.
The whole point behind Jean is that 10-minute emotional build-up when Professor X is saying, help me. Help me. And he has to do it kind of slow because he's stuck in a different state. And she's looking at him like, help you what? And then... Or he said Jean first. And she's staring at him like, what? And it takes him 2 minutes to be like, help me. And he's laying on the floor and I loved it. He's sitting in his blood with his face.
Right.
And he's just go, get him.
Well, yeah, and he's even talking to Apocalypse and telling him, you can't win because you are alone.
Right.
And then she's like, I'm not. And then the doors split.
Right. It's that It's not just when she steps out and screams. It's the whole entire build up
to
that point that causes me to cry.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is it's this little paragraph of her story. You know, if you want to break it down from the
so small though,
Yeah.
but you get so fucking emotionally wrapped up
Mm-hmm.
in that 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You just she finally releases, she also releases through your eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And then the tears just start coming down. But that's how I get emotionally involved in the movies I watch. So, but I love that.
Right, and that's what this movie did for me. 100%. It built and it built and it built, and then you got to the end, and she fucking just blows up, and it's like, oh my god, that was amazing. Out of the 4 comic book movies that have come out this year, we have X-Men, Deadpool, Captain America, and Batman v Superman.
Oh, God.
Rank them.
Really?
Yeah, rank them.
I'm going to go X-Men Apocalypse.
Okay.
I'm going to go Deadpool, Captain America, and then
Batman v Superman.
Batman v Superman.
I understand.
It's not because the X-Men's fresh. It's because it's an emotional family ride for me.
Well, and see, that's the thing. I'm having a hard time between X-Men and Civil War, because Civil War was just fucking amazing to me, and in its own right has its emotional build-ups at the end. It you know, when Tony and
how many times are you gonna see superheroes fight?
yeah, but it was friends fighting, and Tony having this emotional breakdown, and Chris fighting for his best friend. It was just.
There was emotional.
Or Chris. I call him Chris. It's
Steve.
Steve.
There was emotional connection the last 30 minutes. For me.
Yeah, but there was the fight scene with Captain America.
Soldier,
yeah.
I mean, that's all emotional the whole time to me.
It was a lot more emotional.
Soldier. I think Winter Soldier is better than Civil War.
I think so too, because as much as I love a bunch of fucking characters all interacting, I think it's fun, but it's really overwhelming
I want the emotional.
I'd rather have individual stories, like even in comic book world. I love X-Men. They do a really good job of having the team together, but when it comes to like Avengers and Civil War, Avengers and Justice League, I'm not as big a fan. I don't like. It's just too much. There's too much going on. There's no real emotional connection wholly happening. You're kind of like, it's like there's a level of emotion happening, but the Captain America Civil War has a better emotional appeal than the 2 Avengers movie, because the main focus is Captain and working with Winter Soldier. So if you want to take what these 4 movies are, the way I would rank them, I'm having a really hard time with this, but I'm almost going, I like the X-Men better than Civil War. I really am. And I love the X-Men abilities. I love the powers.
Yeah.
I wish I had them. Telekinesis is my favorite ability ever.
I mean, yeah. I mean, but what's cool about X-Men is they keep introducing new abilities every time. People with new abilities, and you're going, God, what else can we come up with? You guys are smart. You know, you keep coming up with these crazy things that we can do. It's awesome. Where do you get, like, the Captain Universe, basically. His pals. They all do the same thing. We all know what they do.
Yeah, I should get you the X-Men comics. I think you might like them. It might be fun.
Depends on where you start me, I guess.
Well, I'd have to find a good starting point.
Which you guys can leave in the comments and let us know.
Yeah, no, that would be great. I mean, brand new comic book reader for X-Men. Tell her where to start.
Yeah.
Like I said, all that being said, we're going to wrap this up. Please, Outcast Collective, we would love your comments. We would love your likes, your subscriptions. Feedback. Give us something to work with.
Follow.
Follow, subscribe, share, like, whatever platform you're on, SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, or just finding us on fucking Twitter at OCast Collective, on Twitter, Facebook, and everybody else is just Outcast Collective. I think that's about it for the
Badass
social media
movie.
stuff. Yeah,
Go
no,
see
great
it.
movie.
Thanks.
Open-minded. Go in open-minded.
Go in open-minded in everything in your life.
You know, and yeah, absolutely.
Period.
And that being said, this movie came out on Memorial Day. If you're out camping and doing shit with your family, you might be even getting ready for the Indy 500. Whatever the case is, you need to go see this movie in the time period in this next week or two.
Wow, it's in the movie theater.
This movie needs your support and love, and this is a great movie. It's a good addition to the series, the universe. Yeah, thank you. So go see it, give it your support, and find us on Twitter and Facebook and stuff, and let's sit down and have some fun conversations.
Indeed. We'll see you around.
Yeah, have a good one.